I'll also start the recording now. Hopefully that doesn't screw up too much of my stream. But if you do not know what Distortion Detective is a book or web series made by Project Moon, who also made Library of Ruina and Lobotomy Corporation. It takes place in the city, of course, and it follows the lead of Moses, who is the Distortion Detective. So we're going to start off with episode 1. Distortion is visible. Cause, explanation, understanding, recognition. I see the distortion. Distortion can manifest itself in anyone. I don't know who first coined the name distortion, but people have been calling it that before. I don't know what principle it is. Based on our experience so far, we assume that this phenomenon is caused by people's strong emotional aspirations and outbursts. The pianist who made the ninth ball hell is known as the representative distortion. Those in the know, but even after that, small distortions are occurring everywhere. For example, there is a person who gradually becomes a fish and a person whose eyes are stained with the sky. To me, the warp is literally visible. It is visible but not physical. In the case of a person whose upper body gradually turned into a fish, the scales were clearly sprouting when I saw it with my own eyes. But when I touched it, it was not fish skin, but warm human skin. From this point of view, the distortion that I see is an illusion. If so, you might think that this phenomenon is nothing more than my mental hallucination, but that's not why I'm doing this. I'm chasing the distortion. It is secret and explicit. Distortion proceeds gradually. Fishmen, in case of mermaids, their eyes gradually changed to the eyes of a fish, gills were formed, and scales were formed to look like fish. When the upper body literally turned into a fish, it manifested physically at some point. Only then could everyone, not just my eyes, see the mermaid. But when they touched it, they could vividly feel that it was like a fish. Also, some of the translation may be a little bit off. This was translated, but translation could be a little iffy. A mermaid, case 5, was an abused person in the fishing village in District 19. He always looked out over the Great Lakes and seemed to want to get out of his now life. My conclusion is that I became a mermaid because I longed for water so much that I wanted to free myself from painful life and go to the lake. Of course, there are many more complicated elements than this. But since the story I am about to tell you is not a mermaid story, I will omit the before and after explanation of this incident. My job is to observe and prevent these distortions. Each distortion is different depending on the degree. I haven't seen a proper person since I started seeing the distortion. To be clear, I cannot scientifically explain this phenomenon called the distortion. From one day, I started to see it in my eyes, and I just noticed it faster than other people. As far as I know, in advance, I try to take action before the distortion actually manifests. That's my job. It only infers the distorted appearance visibly, analyzes the causal relationship, and reports it. I was hired by a company that lost several employees due to the ascension phenomenon, and we selected employees whose eyes were filled with the sky. The company advises them to wear sunglasses. The idea of providing sunglasses to prevent people from seeing the sky was so ingenious that it made me laugh. Their boring lives didn't get any better just because the sky didn't look blue. But their disappearance from Ascension didn't help. Or didn't happen. Apologies. However, those who had their eyes on the sky now turned to the ground, not the sky. I don't know if it's because I wanted to get closer to the sky, or if it's because jumping is common. In fact, the city is not interested in solving it. It seems that that's all there is to it. Is it an understandable death or not? I'm not a volunteer either, so I don't analyze everyone's distortions. Incident case number 13, Balloon Man. This case was an explosion case. The name of the incident is Balloon Man. Literally, the head inflates like a balloon and bursts with a pop. This explosion without gunpowder turned a radius of 10 meters into a blood clot and exploded all over the people within the range. A company in Company O's nest lasted until 5 Balloon Men incidents broke out and finally asked me for help. After examining the commonalities of the people in the Balloon Man incident, there was one thing in common. All of them were in service jobs. In order to interpret the distortion, several clues must be combined. The interpretation process consists of 1. Cause, 2. Explanation, 3. Understanding, 4. Recognition. First of all, after figuring out the cause of the distortion, you need to be able to explain them so that you can understand the causal relationship. Then you will understand the reason for your distortion and accept when and how your distortion can explode. You can solve the distortion in any direction. Resolving here means that the distortion form I see is getting better. If it looks like a person, it's a solution. Balloon people were those who do emotional labor, such as courier services, nurses, and call center workers. In particular, in this case of call center employees, the explosion radius was the largest of 16 meters. As I found out, the company conducted customer consultation by subcontracting to a company specializing in call centers. The call center staff recorded the claim and forwarded it to the records team company, but a problem arose in the process. Call centers agents simply record and have no expertise in the content of the complaints they receive. No matter how much you complain to such employees, customers pour out a lot of profanity even though nothing gets better. Bullying is natural, even threats. Employees have played a role like a toilet that accepts their emotions instead. Those who do emotional labor took their stress with a smile, with a smiling face and voice for others. However, there was no place to vent his dissatisfaction. Eventually, it came to a state where there was more coming in than going out. For this reason, gradually, their heads swelled like balloons, but their faces remained calm. The explosive stress behind a calm face explodes the moment it reaches a critical point. Then what I do is simple. I made a list of people who, in my opinion, had bloated heads and gave it to the company, and they lost their jobs. The company doesn't take the time to make their bloated heads smaller. My work always ends without entering the understanding and recognition stages. Even if you interpret the distortion like that, it doesn't solve the fundamental problem. Their stress is bound to explode eventually, one way or another. However, for the people who commissioned me, their problems are minor. Stopping nonsensical nonsensical phenomena and evading responsibility are their only goals, and they are not interested in the cause. I guess so too, the thought persists that we are missing something important. For now, I'll be chasing the distortion. My eyes can't see anything that isn't twisted anymore. I'm looking in the mirror, only my appearance was not distorted. Everyone is twisted, but I am the only one who isn't twisted. Looking at twisted people, streets, and cities, I think the world is twisted. If the distortion of the world continues to reach a critical point, I have no idea what the consequences will be. Until that time comes, I will only look at the distortion. I am a distortion detective. Alright, and let me do this real fast so I can show you they actually do have pictures here, and I want to share it with y'all. Oh, there we go. That worked. See? And this is the image of Moses looking into her reflection, undistorted.